Oh, welcome back, everyone. It's Monday, so Dr. Paul Arciero is here to talk about health and going on a safari with that shirt or anything. No, okay, we're going to talk about that. But what we have been talking about is weight loss strategies. And if you followed us over the last couple of weeks, we keep moving into each individual tactic for weight loss.
Yeah, I think we've done it really well, the way that we've outlined it. You know, starting off with the lifestyle strategies, kind of globally and generally, and then we've moved into some of the more, what would be considered medical mainstream therapies, and we'll end with one other medical therapy for weight loss today.
Right, now.
Saving next week for the big one.
Sure, so we did really kind of the lifestyle thing to start with. We went into pharmaceuticals, we covered that.
Yeah.
And then the one that we didn't cover, I'd like to talk
review
about
the pharmaceuticals?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's review the pharmaceuticals and then jump into a bit about surgery. I was fascinated by the information you have about that.
Oh, good.
So, okay, on pharmaceuticals.
Yep, so pharmaceuticals. So there's two main types. So the first type of pharmaceutical intervention that we have for weight loss are those drugs that really reduce our food intake, and they do it in two ways. One way is they just simply decrease our body's ability to absorb nutrients. So they really interact with the food itself in our gastrointestinal tract, and they suppress or inhibit our body's ability to absorb it so that it can be excreted. So not a great intervention strategy. As you can imagine, you run the risk of now not just decreasing the absorption of those nutrients, but also all the really important vitamins and minerals. So not a really good strategy. The second one that decreases our food intake is one that is a drug therapy that interacts with our brain chemistry. And it tells our brain that you're not hungry anymore. So you can imagine the side effects that occur when you start entering into the blood-brain barrier and messing around with the brain. And then the final, second type, are those that are stimulants.
Right.
Things that increase our energy expenditure. And so along that line, when you increase a person's energy expenditure, the number of calories they burn at the cellular level, you also impact their heart and their blood pressure. And so heart rate gets increased, blood pressure gets increased. So again, not a real favorable way to go.
Sure, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, probably the most widely used known stimulant would be caffeine.
Caffeine.
And we all do that in coffee and any of these drinks, right, that you can take. These energy drinks have a lot of caffeine in them also. But there are also prescription medicines that you have to go to your doctor for, which just ramps everything that you're saying, ramps it up a bit more.
It does.
Right? Doesn't sound like we're heading down a great path there.
No, unfortunately we're not. You know, that's what people classify as that Western medicine paradox.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
we're trying to improve
Drugs
the health.
can take care of everything.
Yeah,
Right.
and so the side effects that are elicited or produced from the medical therapies that we introduce are sometimes more problematic than the original condition that the person was going to the doctor for.
Boys, that's something to remember, right?
Yeah.
All right, now let's say we go to extremes.
Right, so if we had people that are classified as morbidly obese, and so just as a definition of morbid obesity, it's obesity, meaning increased body fatness, that actually impacts the health and well-being of the person because of other conditions that are resulting from it, from the obesity. So that's morbid obesity, and they can die from it. So what we offer is pharmaceutical, but then we also offer surgical intervention.
Right.
Two main types, Jesse. We have liposuction, which is actually going in and kind of sucking,
removing the fat.
Removing the fat, yeah. Painful, dangerous, again, not without major side effects to it. And in fact, when you remove that fat, you have a lot of extra skin left over.
Right.
And so that requires an additional surgery to get rid of all that loose extra skin, flap skin.
Sure, you probably have if it's not that extreme, but then you probably wouldn't have the surgery anyway if it wasn't that extreme. But you could exercise your way through it, but you know, not many people take that option.
No, they don't. And, and again, that's the one saving grace to all of this that we'll get to next week, those lifestyles that are really most effective. And then the other type of surgery is what we call gastric bypass surgery.
Yes.
So it's taking the equivalent, if I were just to do a little example here.
Sure.
Your fist and your thumb is about the size of your stomach. All right. Now it can swell quite a bit. If everybody can see that, I'm not sure. But when the surgery happens, what we do with gastric bypass is we staple it out, or staple it off rather, or we put a band around so that all you have is just this little pouch of your thumb that is your stomach. And then they take your small intestine and attach it to that little tiny portion. So your stomach now is reduced by more than a quarter of what's original size.
Got it.
So
okay.
you just don't have the capacity to eat that much more food anymore.
Right.
So you have a much smaller pouch to digest food,
Right.
but then you also don't have all of the hormones that are normally sent to the brain to tell you that you're hungry in the rest of your stomach.
Right.
Because
Now,
you have
a question for you there, and I don't think our viewers could see that with that one camera shot.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
just show it on the two-shot
about
here
the
again?
size of the thumb.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just this portion right here.
And what they do is they'll tie it off.
They'll tie it
here.
off or put a band right there so that the stomach now is reduced by less than a quarter of its original size.
Now you're saying that they don't operate and take the rest of the stomach out. So what does
No.
it do? Just hang out there for a while, or
Hangs out.
hangs out?
Yeah, it doesn't do much of anything.
Here's a phrase you don't hear very often.
Of
just
your
your
stomach.
just
Your
hanging
stomach's
out.
just hanging out.
Not very appetizing.
No.
Okay. And you were saying that hormones are reduced, so you're not that.
You don't have that same drive to eat, because
Right.
now instead of having this entire fist that we normally have to secrete hormones to tell our brain that we're hungry, we've only got this little tiny pouch. So
Right.
your drive to eat, your physiological drive to eat is much lower when you have gastric bypass. So that's one of the mechanisms why people who have had gastric bypass surgery lose weight, because they don't have as many drive signals to the brain to say, you're hungry. They have less. But there's complications from this, of course, because when you have a surgery that eliminates 3/4 of your stomach,
Right.
you now have only a small amount of food that you can fit in that. And it better be rich with vitamins and minerals and essential
I
nutrients
was
that you
just
need.
going to ask you that, because if you are limiting your intake, then what do you do to offset that in terms of the lack of nourishment?
Right. You have to take massive multivitamins and minerals, yes.
So again, a solution, especially if there's a medical issue,
Yeah.
obesity,
Right.
which just hinders someone's ability to stay alive. So maybe that's a last resort or something
Last
like
resort.
that.
But people are now electing to do gastric bypass surgery who
Right.
don't have morbid obesity.
Right.
And that's really troubling. I mean, that's when you get right down to it. People who don't have morbid obesity, don't have significant health conditions that are contributing to them becoming very sick and ill and dying, are electing to have this surgery just to lose weight. Aesthetically is the major driving force, and that is troubling.
Boy, you're telling me that's troubling. And you know what? It all goes back to where we started this series,
Yeah.
which is, eating healthier, right? And I would venture to say that the reward of following a diet that's rich in nutrients and that, cuts unnecessary fat out of your diet and stuff like that, in the long run, those results are more lasting
Yeah.
and that they're more satisfying.
They are. And, I think for the most part, we provide really good education for people on lifestyle strategies to help them maintain a healthy weight. And again, the emphasis, I don't want to make sure that we're just talking about becoming, rail thin and wafy.
Yeah, right, sure.
People have different body proportions and body types. And so I'm less about weight as the primary focus, more about a healthy body composition. And so I think we have really sound information for people to navigate the eating landscape, right? What they need to eat. And we've talked about a lot of these things,
Sure.
what type of exercise is really beneficial. But it's about how do you impart that into your daily routine. And
Right.
that next week is what we're going to touch on. This
Well-
holistic approach is going to be really exciting.
Well, we're saving the best for last.
Yeah.
I love
Definitely.
it. In this part of the series, a holistic approach,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Boy, and tell me, Dr. Paul here knows an awful lot about, an awful lot about everything related to this category. You
Well, it's what
stun
I-
me,
Well, it's what I do.
I know it's
Like
what you do.
Yeah.
Hey, I also want to let you know that we have a brand new website we're launching. A few bugs are in it, but it makes it a lot easier for you to talk to Dr. Paul, go back and forth on Twitter, Facebook, and you have any questions about any of the things that we're talking about, please head to that website. And next week we'll pick up
Homeopathic
I can't wait for
weight
that.
loss strategy.
That's terrific.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
All right. To see this interview again, or if you have any questions for Dr. Paul, head to our website, looktvonline.com.